Hello, welcome to the channel. I pray that everyone is doing well out there. And if you are new, thank you so much for tuning in. On this channel, we are ladies. We are ladies that look to the ways of our home while also nurturing our mind, our body, as well as our spirit, okay? And we do fragrance reviews, we do modest fashion, emergency preparedness, and we even do like some end time studies and Bible studies, okay? So if these are some topics that you are interested in, so please like this channel, hit the like button and subscribe, okay? So today is more of, I would say, emergency preparedness video. We're going to talk about this month is National Preparedness Month. And it says National Preparedness Month is sponsored by FEMA. It takes place in September to encourage Americans to plan for emergencies and disasters. And it says it aims to educate and empower people to respond to natural disasters or potential terrorist attacks. The month focused on emergency planning, disaster kits, and staying informed. So that's what this channel is for. And so today I came across this article and I want to read it to you. Well, not really read the entire article, but this was from, I saw this, I want to say, this was on News Nation Now, and it was from August the 23rd, okay? And it says 1,700 National Guard troops to be forced for ICE. And we know, we've seen it if you have been tuning in to the news, and you have seen where the National Guard there's boots on the ground in several cities. And so the video is saying that there is 17 troops to be mobilized to assist ICE, and they're going to different cities. Okay, so I had a map. There was a map on here. And what I'll do is I'll put the map on the screen so you can see if one of your cities is one of the ones that will have National Guards, boots on the ground, okay? But yeah, and I'll also link, I don't want to play the video, but I will link the video so you could watch it for yourself. It's on News Nation, and it's they're talking with the border czar, and they're just saying that 19 states will have pretty much boots on the ground, okay? So that got me thinking, not by any way am I suggesting or saying that this is martial law, but what do we do if martial law is declared? Let's say if there is another shutdown and martial law is declared, and curfews and everything is in place. What do we do? How do we get our family prepared for martial law? And I found an article, and I'm going to read it to you, and probably not all because it's very thick, but I will link it below so you can go over it, make notes for your family. But it says what to do if martial law is declared. It says the first thing to do is comply with all the regulations, including curfews, travel restrictions, okay? So we do know currently in place there is travel restrictions if you don't have particular IDs in place, okay? So it says get your family or your core group together in one place, so everyone is in one place. And then it's going to talk about how you secure your home and your inventory supplies. And it says avoid any unnecessary travel or movements. Organize go bags. Now on this channel we have discussed having go bags. We have discussed 72-hour bags and what you should have in that bag, and have it ready to go at all times if you need to evacuate, or if this is in place and you're required to do so, okay? So it says organize go bags with documents and essentials for each person in case of evacuation, okay? So what is martial law? Martial law allows the government to use the military to restore order. It is a bit hard to say exactly what martial law is because different leaders in different places at different times have used it to mean different things. Generally, though, martial law is used to describe a situation in which the military takes over civilian government, particularly for law enforcement. Okay. So then this article just goes on. It goes on to talk about countries, different countries and such. But it says prepping for a possible declaration of martial law. It says under martial law, your identification documents will be the most important thing you own. They can literally be the difference between going home and curling up in your bed for the night or being detained and sent to prison or even worse. Okay, make sure all documents for everyone in your family are up to date and that you have both physical as well as digital copies stored in a safe place. Depending on your circumstance, you're likely to need the following, okay? It says your driver's license, a state or a national ID or a military ID, passports, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, and any other court documents that relate to you or anyone in your family. Deeds, titles, registrations, and other property documents. Any other license or identification documents, that is also things that you need to have on hand and stored in a place that's easy to find but a safe place. Okay, so next it says get to know your neighbors. In times of crisis, there are a lot of good reasons to know your neighbors. Neighborhoods typically come together and help each other naturally, but if you can put the groundwork in place ahead of time, it'll be a lot easier if and when disaster strikes. That makes perfect sense, because I'm sure everyone can be in an uproar and it could just be a lot of stress added on to the situation already. Okay, so it says it just goes on to say with neighbors you can trust, make inventory, choose vehicles, other materials. It says you can even make neighborhood evacuation plans. And this is something that this is a point right here that I have concern with, because we're in a brand new area. We don't know anyone. And so I've kind of asked around, asked like some of my customers, hey, a few weeks ago when all the storms and things were going on, I was like, hey, where do people go if evacuation is set in place? Like, how does that work? And many people that I asked had no idea. Okay, so this right here, I feel like I'm gonna circle this because I feel like this would be something to do a lot more research on, evacuation plans. Okay, so the third suggestion is stockpile essentials, including food and water. It says you can go 3 minutes without air. You can go 3 hours without shelter in harsh, inclement environment. You can go 3 days without water, and you can go 3 weeks without food. This can take some time and money to build. So just add to your storage gradually, maybe a day at a time. You want to have enough supplies to live in your home for 2 weeks without going anywhere. Okay. So that's very important, making sure that you have water, lots of water, clean water on hand. It says while you only need about 3 days worth of supplies, if you're planning on leaving, you will have no way of knowing in advance if you're going to stay or go. So it's best to plan for both. So make a plan on having supplies. If there's shelter in place where you have to stay inside, make a plan on having all that you need there. Also, if you have to evacuate, then also, you need to make plans and try to figure out the amount of supplies that you and your family would need in an evacuation situation, okay? So remember that food isn't as essential because you can survive longer without it. If you don't have a lot of room in your budget for extensive prep, just buy little extra things you can always buy anyway. And so we did a video talking about just adding a little bit to your grocery bill. Each time you go to the grocery store, add about 3 prep items to your, like 3 cans of tuna, 3 cans of vegetables, you know, just that'll equal about $3 to $4 more worth of things. And then just have you a space set aside for your preps. So that way you can gradually build, and it's not going to be such a strain on you to try to have everything done at one time, okay? And then it just talks about rotating your food out. Okay, so let's see what number 4, fortify your home against intruders. This is very, very, very important. There are all sorts of ways you can fortify your home. You know, he just, it goes in, it says you can do, you know, you can put like a bookcase or something up to the windows, up to the doors, lock your doors with deadbolts, put long screws in your door frame. And, you know, taping off your windows is something, sealing off your windows. We've seen where people put, what is it, like plywood over their windows. And that's another thing to just fortify your house and making sure that it's safe. Motion sensor lights, having different types of tools for protection. Having protection tools in your house is a good way also to help protect your family. Of course, having the tools in a safe place, out of your little's way, out of your children's way, but in places that is easy accessible, that you can grab in time of, you know, if someone's trying to break in your home, okay? And then number 5 says to establish an off-site storage location, which is very, very good, because sometimes in martial law, if they have to come in, if they will come in and take things. I did a video, my son did a video, he had this dream, and I believe that's exactly, now that I think about it, is what this was. You'll see a video of me and my son. We were talking and he had a dream, and they were coming in and they were taking supplies, okay? So I'm going to put that dream in the description, so make sure you watch that dream. It was a lot of detail in there. Now that I think about it, reading this just brought that back to my memory. So there's a strong chance, if supplies are low, that, you know, your supplies can be taken away. So having an off-site storage location for supplies, it says once you start building up your storage, you might find you want to free up some space in your home, because it's a good idea to have supplies stored in a secondary location, okay, in case your home is invaded. So that's a very good idea. You know, it says if you have time and resources, you might want to build an underground bunker, but I mean, that's if you have the resources to do so. It says plan for it to take a while, and then it talks about, you know, building a bunker. The next is number 6, develop a family emergency plan, and go over this plan. Don't just sit down and develop the plan and y'all read it the one time and that's it. Go over this plan multiple times. And it says even practice what you will do if martial law is declared, okay? So have a drill, have a scenario, like in school when they have the fire drills for the children and stuff. Have a drill of where what would you do if this happened, so that where you're getting familiar and it's not so much fear involved. There will be some fear, but because you have did these drills several times, hopefully it could be almost a second nature. Okay, we know, let's do this. Okay, so your body just immediately starts doing the things because you have went over these scenarios several times. Okay, and plus it will help keep your children, I'm gonna say, a little bit more calm, just because you have practiced these drills with them. So practicing your plan regularly also allows you to update. And that's another good one. You will update, because when you practice, you realize, hey, we don't have this, or we need this, or this is a area that we don't have down yet, that we really need to work on. And I often say one of the things that I like to do is we watch a lot of end times, apocalypse movies, and things like that. And I'll pause it, or I'll make notes. And then after the movie, we'll sit down and we'll have a discussion. Okay, what did you feel like they did wrong in the movie? And what is something that you thought could have done better? And what would you do in this particular situation if you were, in this situation? What would you do? And it's so much, it's fun. It gets your, well, I would have turned and I would have done this, and it just kind of helps your brain. Okay, so when it happens, you're just like, okay, I know not to do this because I've seen this. Even though it's on a movie, you kind of know that it was dumb or not. Okay, so that's very good right there. It says, for example, if you were originally planning to bug out to your grandparents' house, but they moved far away, you would likely want to change your plan. That is it. If you had plans when you live in a particular area and now God has uprooted you and you have moved, what are your plans now because you're no longer in that area? Or, like they said, your plan was to go, always the plan was to go to so-and-so's house, but so-and-so is no longer there. Now what? Okay, so it says look up longitude and latitude for important locations available through most GPS, such as your home and the homes of your family members. If roads are destroyed, addresses will be useless, which is that is so true. Last night I was watching a show, and always in these shows, the roads are, you can't even get through. You can't get through because cars are stalled on the road. Everyone's in panic. If you're in the city, it is complete chaos. Everyone is running around. There's looting, there's killing, it's just, the city is not a place that you want to be. More people makes it even worse. Okay, so having a plan for off-road, okay, having a plan to get to your destination off-road, because the main roads, the highways, and everything is going to be bumper to bumper, because everyone's going to try to leave. The gas stations are going to be lined up out in the back in the streets. That's a good one. Thank you, Lord. So having gas on hand, that is another thing, because you won't be able to go to the gas station, because that's everyone's initial thought. Also, ATM, the lines for the ATM, sometimes the ATMs are shut down. So cash on hand, that's also another one if you need to leave. And if they declare evacuation, and everyone's going to try to run and get their money out the bank, so that you don't want to do that. Okay, so you want to at least have some on hand. It says the next one, number 7, is learn as many basic life skills as you can. Under martial law, you have no idea what will be available to you, okay? And what's possible will with limited power and technology. So yes, that's also sometimes, depending on what it is, if it is some sort of threat, and there's been attacks and things like that, there's a lot of time that the grid is down. So technology is not available. So now what? What do we do in this age of technology when everything is just right here in our palm and we can just Google? What do we do? Okay. So, That's something right now. It says, at a minimum, it is a great idea to know basic first aid. As far as basic first aid, I also recommend having first aid supplies as well as books on hand, learning how to sew, having sewing items on hand, learning how to read a map. This is a lost art. Learning how to read a map. This one right here, also using a compass. That was something else, okay? That reading a map, that's another thing that we just don't know how to do today. Understanding a compass, understanding the directions, you know, the stars, that's things that we don't have anymore because we have technology. We can just put it in our phone and go. But if technology is not available, these basic skills are just mandatory. They're like gold, okay? It says, if you anticipate being out in the wilderness, you should learn how to build a fire. That is correct. And build shelter, okay? So that's something else. How to camp out, how to watch out for danger. And it's a lot, okay? So let's see. Number 8, it says monitor trusted news sources to stay updated on the situation. Yes, now if your phone, sometimes, you know, you having weather radios and all of those can help keep you informed on what is going on and updates that the government may come on air and say, okay? So stay away from alarmist or reactionary media, which will likely won't help you stay. You don't want to be watching things or listening to things that's going to depress you and cause a lot of mental things going on, because already with the state that you would be in, listening to things that are going to bring you even down, you just don't even need to do that, you know. If your primary goal is to leave the area until the crisis is over, talk with your family, friends, and neighbors about what possible developments could trigger you to leave. That's a very good idea. I'm going to go ahead and circle that. What is the trigger? Let's say that martial law has not been declared, or an evacuation has not been declared. What are some key things that you and your family have discussed that is going to trigger you to leave? That you're just going to say, you know what, let's just go. I can feel it in my spirit. This is where discernment also comes in. Having discernment and being in tune with the Most High, this is going to be very, 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 very important, okay? So what are some triggers that will cause you to go ahead and leave before the roads are crowded, before it has all hit the fan? What are some triggers? What are some things that you and your family could be discussing today? So when it happens, no one's like, oh, I don't want to leave, blah, blah, blah. No, you've already sat down, you put it in stone, and it's final. So if anyone in your family, there needs to be a one accord. Thank you, Lord. There needs to be a one accord taking place. So you need to sit down and have a talk and say, hey, if this starts taking place, this, and this, it's time for us to head to the mountains, okay? It's time for us to get out of here, okay? Because, and hey, there's going to be pushback, okay? This is why, you know, the Bible talks about, you know, the enemies will be there, those of your household, and being on one accord and things like that, because there is going to come a time, my God, where the sheeps are, and the wheat and the tare is going to be separated, and God's going to show you who is who. You will see who's really for you and who is against you, okay? You will see the betrayal, because let's not get it twisted. Every family member is not going to be, they may say, Lord, Lord, with their mouth, but their heart is far from it. So every family member or every friend or whomever is not going to be on board. Some of them, the Bible says you will be handed over to, some of them will turn it in for not taking the mark. And I know this video is about martial law, but let's be real, okay? Let's also know that biblical comes in place, okay? So who knows? This could be part of it, the issuing of the requirement of taking the mark. So don't be so heavily minded that you're no earthly good and you're like, not my, yes, yes. So you need to sit down and discuss these things. Is my house, for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord? Or we talked about straddling the fence. You know, you need to find out where these family members are, because when you say go, or whoever the major person is that's going, the major person is that's making the decision and calling all the shots, when they say who's the chief, when they say go, then you need to know who's right now, who's saying that they're gonna go. So if they say they change their mind, they want to fold, they want to bend because the world is doing other things and they don't want to suffer, they don't want to go, they're too stuck to a place, then you need to have it in your mind that you're going to go ahead and go. You need to just go. And this is part, we read it in the Bible. We read it in the Bible. So even though we're talking about martial law, like it said in this article, you do not know what it will entail, okay? You don't know, because we do know that there is going to come a time where you won't be able to buy, sell, you won't be able to eat, you won't be able to go to the hospital, you won't have the luxuries that you have right now. So let's be real, okay? So these are things, like they said, what are the triggers? What are the things that's going to cause you to say, okay, let's flee? And the Bible talks about that. Flee. The Bible talks about if you're up on a rooftop, and when I find the scriptures, I'll put them on the screen. Don't come down. He says flee. Okay, so flee. The last thing you want is for your family not to be on one accord and someone saying, well, I'm just going to wait it out here, and you know, I'm not going to go, and then y'all are arguing. Now you're all off. Your discernment is off. No. Okay. This needs to be discussed at this moment. Okay. So the next number 9 says adjust privacy settings on your Wi-Fi network and devices. That's if you have it. It says increased government surveillance is typically a major part of martial law. This just helps you stay under the radar. It says even if you support the government that declared martial law, you can still get in trouble for saying this is good. This is good. You can still get in trouble for saying something that the government feels is a threat. Absolutely. So it goes into that about your privacy and all these kind of things. That is correct, because what is it? The CB radios and things like that, when you're on there talking, your walkies, all of this is very important when you're communicating. Certain words and certain things are also triggers, okay? So this is very good. That's another thing. So that's something else. It says survival and safety under martial law. Do what you can to stay calm and positive. Exactly. Okay. So having these 9, all the 9 that they have listed here, going over these, just making it second nature, the drills, this will help you to be calm. Okay. Not that you're, let's say like you're, you know that you got a test coming and you haven't prepared, you know, and so you wait to the night of to try to cram all the information in, and you're just all over the place. Okay. We know that this is going to take place. So why not get the things that we need in order now so that we can be calm and have a positive mindset. Okay. It says, I believe mindset is about 80% of survival. And it says, I have a saying, survival is 80% mental, is 15. Survival is 80% mental, 15% skills, and 5% luck. That's something that they said here. Yes, mental. Exactly. Okay. And it just says monitor official channels for security alerts and bulletins. A basic AM, FM radio is a good source of official information. And then it goes into about securing your home, and stay inconspicuous.
Inconspicuous.
The gray man. There we go. You want to be, I don't want to be out there in all these jewels and all of this in the middle of an apocalypse, or in the middle of, just acting like, oh, we're still eating good, everything is so great over here. No, you need to blend in. Look up the gray man. You want to be the gray man, okay? So whether you're at home or in public, okay, we don't need all this razzle dazzle, all this gear and all this stuff looking like we're just, because a lot of danger will take place. A lot of people will team up and take, okay? So it says you don't want to attract attention to yourself, or you don't want to attract attention to your home, okay? So then it goes on to, it talks about the go bag, which we've talked about. And here's one, travel in pairs whenever you go anywhere. So I feel like this one is very important. Like, I remember watching a movie where it'll be a mom, dad, and the child. And the dad will say, oh, I'm going out to go get supplies, and then leave the mom home. And then there's intruders. Of course, it just never fails in a movie. Then there's intruders. Or leave the kids and they go out to go scavenge and try to get supplies. And then, of course, there's intruders or creature. I don't know. Something happens. And it's just good to stay together, okay? It's always good to be together. Having a group, having someone else there, that's always good, okay? And let's see what else they have on here. Yeah, it's just talking about complying. Okay. That's pretty much, it's a ton of pages, and then there's questions on here, but I feel like those were some good suggestions. Now, let's see. There is, here is like a picture of the map that I printed out. Showing the states with the troops to be. See that? And I will put a better picture on there because this is probably coming off like backwards. Then there was when I was doing research, there was a group that, I guess it's a Facebook group that I will link below, but they have a citizen's guide to responding to a legally declared martial law. And so it goes into legal foundations of martial law, and it talks about examples in history of where martial law was declared. And this could be very interesting to go and look at some of these. It talks about United States, Poland, the Philippines, South Korea. This would be very good to just go back and research and see how, if you can find information on it, how the citizens handled the situations. How did they comply? What did they do? How did they survive? So that would also be good. But I'm going to link this below, and it talks about false flags and the citizens' response. So that's something else. Yeah, and then there's an emergency action checklist, resources, and then websites on here that will help you to just understand all of this a little bit more, and I will link all of these below. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and let me know some of the things that you are working on this month that is National Preparedness Month. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.